Hey everyone, welcome back to In the Bin. Before I start the episode, I just want to say thank you to everybody who's been listening to these. At first, I wasn't sure if people would listen, but I just heard that we're about to hit 10,000 listens or plays or views or however you want to count it, which is pretty fascinating to me. It's kind of crazy to think that people would sit here and listen to me, but thank you. I really appreciate it. If you ever have any questions or guest recommendations or feedback, you just want to say hi, you can always reach out to us at inthebin@superapple.com. Today's guest is Darin Palmer. Darin is a new-ish grower for the Bluebird Cooperative out of Wenatchee, Washington. Bluebird has been growing pears, cherries, and apples for over 100 years. They started in 1913, and they're still going strong today. So one of the longest-running packing houses and grower cooperatives in the state. Darin, like I mentioned, is a new grower for them. His family's been in the business a long time through his wife's side, and he kind of has an interesting avenue that he took to get into growing, and so we'll dive into that. And he's got a really honest take on some of the pressures that he's facing in his area that some other growers, outside of that area might not be facing, and so we'll dive into that. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Yeah. Cool. How's that been being on the board as a younger farmer, I guess?
It's been good. It's something that I wanted to do just for myself, just because I came from outside of the industry, and so there's no better way to get to know the industry besides getting on a board and that's a good way kind of throwing right into the fire then.
Yeah.
And then I think that Bluebird was, receptive to me coming on the board because I was younger and had experience outside of the industry.
So taking a peek at your LinkedIn, you used to manage construction, building commercial buildings. I saw a hotel on there.
Yep.
How do you go from what I've gathered, it sounds like it's your wife's side of the family. So how do you transition from construction management into orchard management?
So I got a BS degree in construction management.
Okay.
And so then went out and got, put that degree to work and got a job in the construction industry and was a project manager in the Seattle area. And I grew up in a small town on the west side of Washington State, and my wife grew up in Leavenworth, which is on the east side, central Washington, and her family was in the orchard business. And so when we got out of school, we were both over in Seattle, and my wife's a school teacher, and we both grew up in that small town environment where we didn't live when we had jobs that construction, and my wife the teacher. So we were in the metropolitan area over there, and knew that we didn't want that to be where we lived while we had kids growing up.
Yeah.
So from the very beginning, we knew we were going to go either where I grew up or where she grew up. And it's pretty hard to beat Leavenworth.
Yeah.
It's pretty nice in the summer. It's pretty.
That was a good choice.
I actually like the winter, when the snow. And
yeah, I know. I'm surprised you're not skiing right now.
Tomorrow.
Did you bring your stuff?
I did.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
So so her dad was, getting towards retirement age and was like, you should come over here and, learn how to farm and take care of this. And nice. I grew up on a farm, so the equipment side of things and, the hard work, and ours was cattle and timber, but it's,
it's more or less the same thing, right?
You got your hands dirty.
Yeah.
And so, we went back and forth, and then as we were ready to start having children, I was like, well, we got to pick. When actually we had children, and my daughter was getting to the age where she was going to go to kindergarten. It was like, well, we got to pick where we're going. And
it's time.
So, we'd had a lot of time to think about it. And so we ended up moving over. And
nice.
So as soon as I came over, it was like, okay, how do you farm?
I bet that was exciting for your father-in-law and mother-in-law to have the next generation come and take it over.
I'm sure it was a weight off of their shoulders because they didn't have a succession plan before that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm sure it was a...
So you come into it with zero knowledge of orchards and tree fruit and hit the ground running?
Yeah. The trees, I didn't really know what the trees were doing. Like how to prune them, anything like that. I was comfortable with the equipment, like I said, because I grew up driving equipment from the time I was 2. My dad would put me in the truck, throw it in gear, jump out, get in the back of the pickup, and I'd, stand on the steering wheel, turn it all the way to the right, turn it all the way to the left as he was feeding the cows.
Yeah, Ray told me you're a hell of a backhoe operator.
Yeah. So, well, that comes, when you start at 2 driving something, by the time you're 4 or 5, you can basically drive home, turn the key off, because this was back before you had, all the safety features.
Yeah.
So I could literally just turn the key on, the truck would take off and go, and I'd get where I wanted to go, and I'd shut it off. And I don't know, it was probably 10-ish, and my dad was a logger, and it wasn't legal for me to drive a pickup on the road, but I could drive equipment on the road. So next thing you know, I'm on a skidder.
The old farm loophole.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm on the equipment, and Dad's in the pickup behind me with his 4-ways going. And
yeah, I did the same thing. You can't drive a truck down the highway when you're 12, but you can drive a combine down the highway when you're 12.
Exactly.
So who taught you, I guess? Was it your father-in-law?
Yeah, so when I came over, I had a lot of energy to get out there, and so it was just out there every morning on the tractor mowing,
passing down his knowledge to you,
which has been he's literally grew up there since his dad was a farmer on that same piece of property, and his grandpa started it. Wow. So he's been there his entire life, like literally his entire life on that.
So 4th generation, right?
Yeah, so I'm the 4th generation now.
Okay.
Or my wife and I are the 4th generation. Right. And so he's got a lot of he just knows what he's doing, right? He's got a gut that tells him, hey,
he knows where every valve's at.
Well, all of that, right? Like he knows where every valve's at because he put it in.
Yeah.
For the last however many years, that's what he's been doing. So there was a lot of, and I come from the construction industry where, everything's kind of new. It's all per plans. You're working with people to come up with the buildings, basically. So everything was, there's a lot more structure to it. Mm-hmm. And so that was one of the things that, how do I get that information out of him? Because it's second nature to him, and I have no idea.
True. Yeah, that's a good point.
So he's got such an understanding of it, and anybody that's been doing that for so long, that's what they know. Mm-hmm. And so it was, trying to get as much of that information.
And you must have got enough out.
Just you trial by fire. That was, that was one of his things that he definitely wanted to instill upon me, is like, I can tell you how to do it, and I'll tell you how to do it. I'll give you advice, but until you go out there and stub your toe.
Oh yeah, you gotta live and learn.
Yeah,
dude.
exactly. So if I have some idea and he's like, yeah, have at it, and he may not have agreed with it, but he would give me the leash to go out there and stub my toe and be like, oh yeah, that's why he said
that's the best way to learn.
That's why he said not to do it that way.
Learning by experience, trial by fire.
If it was like way off base or whatever, he'd be like, hey, yeah, that's
if you're gonna lose the farm, he'll reel you back.
Yeah, do something like that.
Have you replanted any orchards or put any new ones in since you've been doing this?
Not we are always replanting, but it's not necessarily like a complete tear out. Currently in a leased block, we just tore some out, and he's got, in that block that I took over, there's a new high density cherry and new high density pear, a few acres each that we're in the middle of, and then this year we took out some more, so we'll be replanting those. And
so I guess how many total acres do you manage or own, or however?
Right at about 200.
Okay, and that's cherries, pears.
Mainly pears, and then we have some organic cherries and some conventional cherries, and then some apples.
Okay, cool.
But
so
the apples are all older. Not too many, it's more for like a fruit stand, and
cool.
We get a couple that come into the warehouse, but
nice. So you've got all the main, I guess, tree fruit commodities.
But definitely mainly pears.
Which one's the easiest?
The easiest? Yeah. None of them are easy.
Well, I know. Well, one's got to be easier than the others. I'm guessing cherries, but
cherries? No, cherries are stressful
for 2 months.
Yeah.
Well, I guess probably more 5 or 6. But...
or the whole year, because then I don't know. It's just cherries are stressful.
Yeah. As far as inputs, though, which ones, I guess, are the most taxing?
The angios are challenging because of the pests, and that we work really hard to keep the pests out of the tree.
So the angios attract more pests than others? Okay. So I didn't know this. So.
Yeah, because it's got to be the waxiness on the leaf or something. That our biggest pest is the Persilla. And so, for whatever reason, they like the younger shoots that come out of an angio. They're attracted to any pear, but they prefer an angio. So if it's got a sweeter taste or something. You got a bosk and an angio right next to each other, the angio will get a little bit more.
Wow.
There's all the other pests that everybody else has to battle, but
I always hear about codling moth and stuff like that.
And codling moth isn't isn't really
Interesting.
that big of a pest.
So how do you treat that then on Andrews?
It's just, you got to stay on it. You got to, you're always
You got a lot of tools in the bag, though,
we got
right?
a lot, yeah, pruning wise. Obviously, we have to spray the trees to, for all kinds of stuff. And so it's always, it's everything. We're out there summer pruning them, so we're trying to pull that sucker growth as the summer grows. You get the suckers coming out of the top of the tree, and so you're out there pulling those to try and eliminate that soft, fresh leaf that pest likes to go to.
So controlling kind of new growth.
Controlling new growth,
Okay. Interesting. Huh. I don't know much about that pest, so I know you were on a panel recently this last fall for IPM. How are you implementing that in different orchards?
So WSU, Washington State University, their tree fruit, so they're working on the IPM program, and I think they've had a couple different rounds of it, and they're doing everything they can to try and get away from all the harsher chemicals that we use. And, years ago, the chemicals were pretty harsh, and they'd spray, 3 times a year. And, we spray 10 to 12 times a year. And it's basically because the efficacy of our spray programs aren't what they used to be.
Aren't as strong, basically.
Aren't as strong.
So you just have to do more applications.
Yeah, so you're constant, and the chemicals that we have to use are very targeted. And so and very expensive.
Yeah.
So it's a very expensive thing, and it doesn't really work. I mean, it does work. It obviously works a little, but you're just constantly battling it.
Huh.
So the IPM program is looking at it and saying, okay, so why in our area do we have such a problem with this one pest, and what can we do to, what have we done, and what can we do to, other options besides just going out there and spraying them, because the sprays that we get, they work, there's not very many new ones. And when you do get a new one, it'll work pretty good. But then it just, that efficacy of that wears off over time.
Do the bugs adapt to it?
Yeah, basically.
Wow.
So
they evolve.
and they, I don't remember. It's like 4 generations a year, I think.
Really?
Yeah. So they cycle real quick.
And every cycle gets more
resistant. So every time there's a little bit. So, that happens very quickly,
Right.
maybe 5-10 years.
Right. But that's 40 generations. Right
yeah.
there.
But
That's
then
crazy.
how many, we don't get new chemicals all that often.
Right.
So
Dang.
anyways, that, and then, I don't know, it's a challenge, right? That's a challenge that I don't know all that too much about. I just know what my field man tells me. Hey, this is, let's go after it with this, because there's all kinds of rules to what you can spray when, and, what the pre-harvest intervals are on them, and how many applications per year you can do them. There's a lot of rules. So, and they're expensive. So with this IPM program, it's they're looking at like, what else can we do? So what used to be here that's not there? So with the IPM program, we're trying to get natural enemies back into the orchards. And so they've maybe been killed off because of a broad spectrum insecticide. And so they're no longer in the orchards. So I have a block that's specific, that is kind of segregated off from any other orchards. And so right next to the orchard is a heavy stand of timber. And right below it, there's a 20-acre field that's just wide open, grass, kind of natural grasses. And then the Peshastin Creek runs through the property.
Nice.
So if there's a beneficial insect in our valley, it's probably on this piece of property.
Yeah.
So I've had really good success with that. So this is our last growing season, was our 2nd year in the program. And this I think is their 2nd time trying this program. So a couple years ago, they had a group of growers that got into it, and they didn't have as much success as we've experienced this time. And so the 2nd time around, I was asked, they were looking for volunteers, and I was like, well, there's a site that if it's going to work, it's going to work here. And so last year, in July, we've gone through this soft program. So we're trying not to spray any harsher chemicals. It's a broad spectrum killer. And in July, when our pest was getting really bad, it was like, oh, this is getting tough. We might have to pull the plug and use something to knock them down that, isn't in this program.
Right.
It's something that we use on our conventional sites. And so we're watching it, and this specific block is an older block and the tree spacing is very wide, and the trees are enormous. Like they're just really big old trees, so they're hard to get spray coverage into the tree. And with the wider it gets, it's like taking out a paint sprayer and you spray from a long ways away. You're just kind of dusting it, but you got to get right into it. So it's it's either you just take a really long time spraying it one side in a tree at 1.5 miles. It takes a long time, or you just kind of blow it out there and hope it works.
Yeah.
So it was a really good block for us to work this experiment with. And so like I was saying, in July of last year, we were like, oh, I don't know, we may have to pull the plug and go to something that's gonna help us.
Right.
And it just kind of flattened out. And then we got more beneficial bugs that came into the orchard. And by the end of the year, when we started picking it, it was actually fairly clean. The trees were very clean, because part of the problem with this pest that gets in our trees is they get sticky.
Oh.
So it gets a honeydew that's in the tree. And so as you're in the tree actually picking the fruit's sticky. And it's like, you're getting up in this giant paintbrush that's sticky. So nobody likes it.
Yeah.
And it marks our fruit up. And if you get the marking early in the year, like in July, then you can't get it off because it bakes on in the summer heat. And so then as it goes through the warehouse and down the line and we clean the fruit, well, it's just stuck on there.
Yeah.
You can't get it off. And so, my wife doesn't like to go to the store and pick up a piece of fruit to feed to my kids. It's got a mark or a blemish or something on it. So that gets tossed.
Yeah.
So, and that's a piece of fruit that there's absolutely nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, it's perfectly fine.
It's a perfectly good piece of fruit, except for there's, something that somebody perceives as, oh, this isn't perfect. I'm not going to eat it.
Your wife's not alone there. I think 99% of shoppers are that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's crazy.
So,
do you know exactly which predator, I guess, was eating or killing off the bad bugs?
Well, I think that our block is Trichinides is the one that is the beneficial bug that's getting into the orchard and actually killing the pest.
And you didn't introduce those. Those were from the surrounding area.
They're in the area, but they don't, they're just not coming into the orchard.
Interesting.
Or if they were coming into the orchard, they're getting hit with the...
That's so cool. Man,
yeah.
That whole concept is just awesome.
And so then last year it leveled out, and then this year we're like, okay, we'll do it again. And from the very beginning, we had beneficial bugs into the orchard.
Oh, cool.
And so, like I was saying, we spray 10 to 12 times a year. Well, this specific site, we sprayed 4 times this year.
Wow.
So as spring comes and the trees are waking up and the buds are starting to swell and move, we spray at that point. We actually spray clay onto our trees, because that pest doesn't like to walk around in clay like anybody. You go out in the mud and walk around on clay and you get a bunch of clay on your feet. It's like, oh, this is gross, right? They've got wings, they've got, a bunch of legs, and it's just not, they'd prefer to move on someplace else. So we put our clay sprays on at the beginning of the year, and this site's a little bit later because it's up a valley I guess we'll probably be on the north facing side. So there's snow that's there later than a lot of other places. And so as we started into the growing season, we just didn't have the pressure that we had on other areas.
That's so cool.
And then specifically this year was Mother Nature has a lot to do with our industry.
Right.
And for whatever reason, there wasn't a ton of the pressure from that pest throughout the valley. But so we had a good growing year for it, but I mean, it's very, we had a lot of other problems in that block. But it was,
there's always something.
We got hailed on, and then there's other pests that were coming into the block that we weren't, we normally will just take care of, and they're, we don't, as in our conventional blocks, we don't even really think about them because we just take care of them.
Yeah.
But so that we got some so next year we'll have to address those problems, and nothing I can do about the hail. But
it's cool you're able to cut back the spraying, though. I mean,
that's really cool.
Anytime you can reduce the amount of inputs you got to put in, financially that just helps.
Well, it works for everybody, right? I mean, who doesn't want to see less inputs going into everybody, right?
Yeah.
Everybody wants to see less of that. So anything we can do to continue to grow that. And so I've got a really good site. There's other people that have other sites, and they all were a success this year also. Not to the extent that I was, but so as an industry, we're looking at that. Like, how can we push this? How can we grow those areas? So now if we got a pocket
Right.
where we got
How
these
do you
beneficials,
spread that around?
how do we spread it? Now my site's completely segregated off, like I was saying, but if we can get one set up in the middle of a valley, like how do you get there?
Do you think
can we reintroduce bugs,
Right.
the beneficials to the areas?
Do you think it's possible in 10, 20, 30 years to like really eliminate that pest? Is that like, can it get to that scale, or at least really impact it?
I mean, possibly. I mean, I don't know. I really don't know.
I'm just curious, like how far it can go, like if it completely changed the whole dynamics of the valley in terms of pests.
I mean, you got to have a goal.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's a realistic goal, but I think that anything we can do to get that direction is good.
Are there any other IPM examples? Maybe different blocks that other pests or something that.
Well, that's our pest. Like that's the one.
Really.
I mean, we are very.
Dang.
That's the one we go after.
Huh. Okay.
The rest of them that doesn't cause the same economic impact that one pest does.
So you mentioned Leavenworth area. Obviously, very hilly, very mountainous.
Yep. We got a sweet sledding hill.
I bet. Yeah. Do you want to get into some of the challenges there? How you can't drive tractors at a 45-degree angle.
Yeah. So we kind of pride ourselves in the upper Wenatchee Valley as having the best pears in the world. I mean, I think
that's well known.
We live there. We kind of, that's our
You're
feeling.
A little biased.
We're a little biased, but like that's, you go to the store and you can tell if they're upper valley pear or they're not.
Yeah.
Just, you go into Walmart and you look at them, like, oh yeah, those are from someplace else.
Even without seeing the label?
Without seeing the label.
That's cool.
And like every time I go into a store, no matter where I'm at, any place, if there's a pear, I'll go, or apple or cherry, or I'll go look and see whose it is. Was this one of ours?
Right.
Or is this one of our competitors in our area? Or is this from another area of the country or another area of the world?
Yeah.
Or what's the competition doing?
I think in terms of the buying side of things, people recognize that too.
Yeah.
The Wenatchee Valley, I guess, as like the premium pears.
Yep.
So,
which the other day I was in Walmart and I was like, "Oh, those are really nice." They were from our, they were super fresh. Yeah,
they were.
Yeah, they were super fresh.
Yes,
yeah,
nice.
Stick around. But it was like, dang, those look good.
What were they? Anjous?
They had they had Anjos, Bartlett's, and Bosque. All nice, open display.
And they all looked good?
And all three of them looked really good.
Nice.
I was impressed.
Cool.
Actually.
That's such a good feeling.
It was. Because sometimes you go in and it's like, oh.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm glad those aren't ours.
Before. I won't say where I was, but one time I actually went to a local store and bought out all of their Cosmic Crisps because they had just like started to break down.
Gotta get
and it
rid
was
of
a
these.
bad representation and our logo was right there. And I'm like, I'm going to buy them all and throw them away.
Yeah. So I guess kind of going back to our area, we're definitely on some hills, and we've got well-established orchards from, basically from the 10s, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. There's a lot of orchards that have been established in the area for that long.
And just on the side of mountains, basically.
And they're on the Leavenworth Valley is pretty steep sides, and so if we can. If they could put an orchard on it back in the day, they did. And so we've got a lot of terrain that's a little more difficult to get on than some of the other growing areas.
How's the actual soil, though? Aside from the slope, I mean, how healthy, like how fertile is that soil up there?
Oh, we got really fertile soil.
It's good?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, we got fertile soil. I mean, I don't know if you want to get all into it, but back when the Missoula floods came and that, pushed a bunch of soil up there.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I don't know, I'm kind of, it was my favorite class in college was geology of national parks, and
I love it too.
Yeah. So
the whole flood
kind of got into it,
and so it just kind of dumps all that sediment.
Yeah. So there's a lot of sediment that, came down the Wenatchee Valley, which, carved out Wenatchee. Mm-hmm. And so that was kind of a backflow that came up in there. And so we've got some huge rocks that came floating up there on, icebergs, basically.
Is that what the spires are?
I think those were washed away. Yeah, so the spires were like the shafts and pinnacles have been...
Right, those, yeah.
The erosion has exposed those rocks.
Got it, okay.
But there's huge rocks that have either came out of the Cascades or came out of Montana or Canada or someplace.
So crazy, man.
And have been deposited there, so... But so we've got really good soil. We have a lot of varying soil, too, depending on where you're at.
So... You had mentioned when we were, before the show about real estate pricing.
Yeah.
You've described the Wenatchee Valley and Leavenworth area as like very beautiful, and it is. If anyone's never been there, it's very scenic.
Yeah. You can get on the Hallmark channel and watch
it's
Christmas movie, and a lot of times they've got downtown Leavenworth.
Everybody wants to retire there.
Well, yeah.
So how do you deal with the incentives to sell versus continue growing?
Well, in our area, it's changed quite a bit over the last, 25 years, basically, because, the Washington's growing. A lot of people have moved into the Seattle area, and it's a 2-hour drive over. And, Leavenworth's a Bavarian themed town that does all the Christmas lights and does, it's every weekend there's some sort of a festival going on. We had a game warden that was over a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about, things that were happening, and because bears are a problem in town. And so he was talking about that. And
side note, I went bear hunting this year up there. Didn't see a single bear. I believe you that they're in town, but dude, I was up there for a week. I didn't see a single bear.
So one of my guys on the crew, Sammy, lives in Leavenworth, right by the golf course, and we were calling the game department because a bear was crawling into the back of his pickup and he had taking pears home to feed his kids, and they were in the back of his truck, and there's like bear paws on the side of his truck, and then it's like hanging out up the tree and getting into their garbage. And so we were one of the people that were calling the game department like, hey, there's a bear. You got to come help crazy. Us out with this thing. What do we do? But anyway, side note from all of that, when he was there, he was talking about that I think he said there was 3 million people that go through Leavenworth every year.
Holy cow.
And he said it's about the same scale as Yellowstone.
Whoa.
As far as tourists.
I would believe that. In the summer on the weekends, man, it's just
the
crazy.
Summer, it's the winter. It's my first winter there. Literally needed to go get some milk, right? And so my wife was someplace, and so I'm like, oh, let's go, kids. And so we jump in the car to go to Leavenworth. We live like 3 miles from town.
The Safeway right there?
Yeah, the Safeway. Yeah. And I got about a mile from the house, and I noticed the traffic was pretty heavy, and then we were just stopped.
Oh, man.
I was like, well, I got 2 more miles to go. We're not getting milk. So we turned around and went back home. But so that's the Christmas tree lighting in the middle of.
Oh yeah, shoot! Don't leave your house during that.
So yeah,
everyone wants to be there.
Yeah. So with everybody coming over and everybody, this is great, right? And so there's people from outside the area that come over and they want to have a vacation house or another rental or something over there. So we get a lot of pressure from people that are coming over. And what's that do to your land prices? Just drives them up. Yeah. And so, there's an economic level that you can purchase a piece of property and then farm it. And well, that's not the level that we are in. So as there's a lot of families in the valley from Wenatchee all the way up to Leavenworth that that's what their families have done. I'm not we're not unique in the fact that we're 4th generation,
right?
And so it's very tough to pass that on to another generation because they can't necessarily afford they just can't afford to farm the size of the acreage that their parents might have. They maybe have 25, 30 acres because that was sustainable 20, 30 years ago, that if you had 25, 30 acres, that was something that was, you could survive and have a family on something like that. And you maybe would have a job in the winter or something to try and supplement that. But, farming is kind of a full-time job.
Yeah.
And so that's not the case now. If you have 25 or 30 acres, you're not, it's more of a hobby at this point.
Right. You got to really
and
scale
so there's a lot of people that are, dad or grandpa or whatever's been doing this his entire life. He's 85 years old and he's still getting out there mowing, but the kids or the grandkids or nobody's going to come.
Yeah, that's a common
take it over because it's a job.
It's a common trend.
Yeah. In growing. They look at it like, okay, one, we can't afford to farm it just without purchasing land because the family already owns the land.
Right.
And now you'd throw on top of that the fact that, land prices are
Yeah, so
Very
you can't
expensive.
really, so if someone does have 25, 35 acres, you can't really expand that because the price of the land
Yeah,
is out of reach really. And so you're
exactly.
kind of stuck at that size that the families
Yeah,
had for the past.
you're kind of protecting what you got, but
Right.
that's all you can.
You
You
can't really
can't
do
expand.
anything.
Yeah,
Yeah, interesting.
and yeah, so
That's tough.
yeah, it is tough, and so we're losing acreage to development, and so we look at it as we're growing the best pears in the world, and it's just the acreage is going down and down and down, and the cost inputs are going up and up and up, and there's efficiencies that are being gained in other areas that we just, because we're on those hillsides, we just can't keep up with those efficiencies that if you've got 100-acre square block that's got 8 by 16-inch tree spacings. It's just you just economically can't do it.
Yeah, it's hard to get big yields.
Yeah.
From an orchard that's on a high slope.
Yeah.
With wide rows.
Yeah.
Compared to a perfect rectangle that's flat and 8 by 16 trees.
And we're sitting there waiting for the snow to melt, and our first sprays are going on. We got to get out there and mow because we prune all winter, so we got prunings all through the orchard that we got to go mow and pick up, and then you can't get on these areas because there's literally still snow on them, and even once the snow goes, now there's soil that's really wet, and you're on a slope. And
I'm thinking about what you were saying about the families that are stuck in that situation. How common is it for I don't want to use the word sell out, but essentially how frequently are you seeing it where they end up taking the real estate option and subdividing? Is it like the common thing that everybody's...
I don't know what the other option is.
So they eventually have to.
I mean, the other option would be is to lease it out to somebody else that could come in and farm it.
Okay.
I mean, that's the only, you're prolonging it.
Yeah. So it's inevitable.
Yeah.
Interesting. If you can hold out for another like 10, 20 years, the land value is just going to go up and up and up. At some point,
yeah, but then you also got new neighbors, right, that don't want farming right next to them.
At some point,
everybody loves the look of it, but they don't want it next door.
Interesting. See, I do want it next door.
I love it. I mean, we live in the middle of it. It's great.
We live in the middle of a cherry orchard, and I love it. I'd have it no other way. So there's a number at some point where someone just takes it.
Yeah.
Interesting, man. I don't blame them, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's an orchard that my father-in-law has been farming since '88. Storage units now.
Man, so it's flat.
Well, yeah, it was a little bit flatter.
That one's flat.
It was on the right there on Highway 2. So.
How much storage is actually in Leavenworth area? Are there a lot of CA facilities like in Leavenworth, or are a lot of them outside in like Wenatchee and Cashmere? And...
we've got quite a few.
Do you?
Yeah.
I guess I've never seen them as I go through, like the main road and stuff.
Yeah. Well, in Peshastin, where Bluebird's at, we've got them. Our neighbors have got them. We've got another warehouse, 2 warehouses on Saunders Road, which is right, close, within a mile of our main warehouse there. And then, as you go down towards Wenatchee, there's more other co-ops and other independent warehouses.
Yeah, it's a cool area, man. I love the I can't even say it, Peshastin area. Bluebird's had that line there. I just learned this since like 1918 or something.
Yeah.
Obviously the building's changed, right? And they've upgraded it and stuff. But I was looking at when they had the 100th year anniversaries. Looking at some of those photos, man, with the rail that came right through there.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
Like the longevity and the historical generational, I guess, at Bluebird is just fascinating.
Yeah.
And it
is generational. So one of our truck drivers, his dad was a driver also, and so when he was a kid, he talks about like how they used to go out and have to load the rail cars, and just how there's more to the story about how things were substantially different when he was a kid, and there's a lot more fun, I guess, maybe, and but they worked their tails off, and they'd have to. Yeah.
That's crazy.
But yeah,
so,
he one of the guys that I see all the time, he's not all that old that. He talks about loading the rail cars.
Man, it's like something that's been there for 150 years. It's eventually going to get priced out.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And like for us, we're, I'm the 4th generation. My son's got a 5th generation farmer hat, because he likes to be out there.
Oh, cool. Good. You think he'll follow in the footsteps? And
you would hope, right? I mean, the lifestyle that it gives you is...
How old is he?
5.
Okay. You got a ways to go.
I've got 5. He's the one with the hat. I've got a 5-year-old. I've got a 8-year-old and an 11-year-old daughter.
Okay. Cool.
So, I mean, and the lifestyles are great, right? Like that's what you get as a farmer, I guess. Mm-hmm. And that's what you're giving up. You're giving up some other things to have that lifestyle.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And so it's a trade-off. And, but with that, the crew that works for us they're in their 4th and 5th generation also working for us. And so, Papa Carlos, as we call him,
Papa Carlos,
he came and started working for us with his dad. So him and his dad came up, and I think he was 16 when he came up, and he's been working for us ever since. And when he first came, him and his dad came the first year, and then when he came back, he brought his brothers with him. So he brought 5 other brothers with him. So there were 6 of them that were coming up and working for us, and 4 of those brothers still work for us.
Wow.
One of them went back to their hometown in Mexico and has been taking the money that he made here and has opened stores and is very successful down there.
Wow.
And
so they're attached to your land.
Oh, they're attached to it also, yeah. And so his kids are in their 30s now, and they're the guys that are taking over with me, and becoming the managers of the orchard and running the crews more and having more responsibilities. And so there's been a transition from the older generation to the younger generation, both in the actual management and in the labor side of it. And now their kids are getting of age also. And so I've got I guess he's 19 or 20 now, that's out there working.
Oh,
and then,
cool.
16-year-old that works on the summers, and a couple of them that are working in the summers or getting out there mowing the lawns, or they're doing something, but they're out there trying to earn some extra cash so that they can go get shoes or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's a challenge for me, because I look at all this like we're family, right? Like,
yeah,
you don't live side by. I mean, they live 100 yards from me. We work together every day.
Yeah, you see them daily. I mean,
there's 4 girls that are all in the same class together.
Wow.
So my daughter and the twins that are next
really?
door to us,
Cool.
and then Dulce, who's they're all in the same 6th grade class.
So they're all close friends.
Friends, and
that's so crazy, man. It's like a micro community.
It's totally. We got the compound up there, and
I was gonna say cult, but I went with micro community.
well, so I mean, when they were a little bit younger, they're like, I'd come home and there'd be 15 kids running around my house, right? Because they're out there on the trampoline, or swimming in the pool, or playing tag, or who knows, whatever, right? They're always.
It's cool because everyone there is just connected to the land and the success of the land too. So if you have a good year, everyone thrives. If you have a bad year, everyone suffers. So.
Yeah, and it's like, how do you keep this going? How do I put us in a position to bring that next generation on? How do I give them an incentive to stay and work and grow a career, and not have them go off and do whatever?
Yeah, that's a whole nother struggle, is young children, as everyone has more access to education and stuff, they don't necessarily always come back to the farm. They want to go be doctors or whatever.
Which is great, right? Yeah. I mean, I'm all for it.
Which is fantastic too, but then that kind of penalizes.
That's our approach, right? Is their family. So you're trying to do whatever's best for them. Mm-hmm. Also, like, you want to push them in a direction that they want to go in, but there's career opportunities in the fruit industry that maybe they could become a warehouse manager, or line managers, or whatever. There's all kinds of career paths out there, whether it's specifically working in the orchard or running a crew, or just
or selling it.
Yeah, there's a lot of options, right? And so how do that's my job, right? Is because I look at them all as family. I look at them all as people that we're providing for. And so how do we keep this going?
Yeah, man.
Because it gets harder and harder.
Crazy.
Yeah, but hey, we're up for it.
Yeah, good. Man, I'm thinking about that.
I don't know. You can't stress enough like how much it's family. Like it is.
I mean,
and we're not, it's the same. You look at all these smaller growers, it's the same. The same story, different faces, different names. They're similar.
You were telling me about kind of a collaborative group. Was it AEW? What was the abbreviation
Wenatchee Valley Family Farms is a group that we're we're starting right now. We're recently started. I guess it's been about a year that we've kind of.
And so it's a lot of small.
So there's 3 co-ops in our valley, and we're kind of getting together, and we're trying to, because we've got all these things that we're faced with, whether it's regulations and paperwork and whatever it is.
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot. One of the things that's come up it's like coming to a head right now is our 40-hour work weeks. So it used to be that ag was exempt from overtime. Mm-hmm. And so for us, our crews work year round, but right now it's snowing outside today. They maybe got, 3, 4, 5 hours in today, but it's cold and snowing, and so they cut out.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, if it's supposed to get cold, so if it's too cold, you can't be out there working.
Right. Or too hot.
Yeah. So, we have times of the year where we're a little bit slower, and we got times of the year where like it's got to happen now.
Yeah, it's a 90-hour week.
It's today.
Yeah.
You start at 2 in the morning, right? Like
Jeez.
A couple years ago when we're picking cherries, like people were out there with headlamps because you don't want to pick a cherry over 80 degrees.
Right,
well, it's the low of the day is 80 degrees.
And 4 in the morning.
Well, yeah. And so it's like you got to make it happen, right?
Yeah.
So that we have both times of the year when times are, you got to have, it's a 50, 60 hour work week, or it's a 20-hour work week. Mm-hmm. So that's a big burden on us then to go and start paying overtime, which that hasn't been a thing where, you kind of look at it as a whole year over the year.
Right. Spread out.
It's averaging out. So the new laws last year was, I think, 48 hours. And so we were right there, where, we're like, hey, overtime's coming in. So at 48, let's cut it off. Well, now it's 40 hours. And so that just gets to be a challenge right now.
Right. Especially when, you got to get the fruit off the tree.
Now I'm paying $30 an hour for somebody to be out there working. And that's a hard pill to swallow.
Definitely. And you can't just leave it out there.
And you don't have a choice. Yeah.
Right.
That's your business. Like,
yeah. Man.
Timing's everything. So that's one of the things, as we have a lot of challenges, and as smaller growers, some of those hurdles are very hard to get over. But as a group, if we can kind of combine our efforts as all of these smaller growers through these different co-ops, like, hey, let's get together and kind of work together so that we can compete with these larger corporations that are, honestly have more efficient farming practices because they're out farming orchards in different areas.
Right.
Because they can't get into our area because nobody, they can't. The dust doesn't pencil.
Yeah.
So
right.
They'll take their capital firm and invest their money someplace else.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a challenge. So that's one of the things that we're working on is like, hey, can we come to some sort of balance here with the overtime wage? And our labor rates have gone up substantially over the last 5 to 7 years.
Yeah. It's not slowing down.
It's not slowing down. And there's surveys out there that they survey us. It's just like every year it's just ticking up. Like this year it's $1.27, 28 an hour that the wage has gone up.
Man.
And then you throw on top of that a 40-hour work week
and overtime.
And now overtime. Yeah. And so it's like, well, so now what?
Jeez. And so the group, the multiple co-ops coming together, outside of labor, are there any other issues that they're working to solve together, or is it mostly for labor?
So labor's the pressing issue because, if you're a larger grower, you can bring H2A guys in under a contract, which housing is a major hurdle to get over. And one of the things we're running into, because we're such an older area, is like the house that I live in, I couldn't transition to H2A housing because there's no certificate of occupancy for it. And so that's one of the requirements. I was like, well, the house has been here forever. And it's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Or you got a tenant that you're kicking out to try and put H2, labor housing in, and you can't get it approved. It's like, what? Yeah, but it's totally fine for somebody else to be living in there. They were paying rent in a normal, competitive market like any other area. But yet this house doesn't approve for the H2A.
Huh. And there's really no land to go and build an actual H2A facility. Based off, like you're saying, that the real estate prices of
Yeah, real estate prices are. I mean, there people are doing that, but then you're basically building an apartment complex.
Right. You have to take out an orchard just to put in H2A housing.
And if you're going to do that, you might as well put somebody in there that's actually going to pay rent.
Yeah. Man.
Because we provide housing. Like all my guys, the majority of my guys live in our housing.
You got any good news?
I mean, yeah, we got a sweet sledding hill.
Right through the rows of Andrews.
Yeah, right down the road. Granddad will go pick them up at the bottom.
Nice.
Yeah. No, I mean, but so that's the challenge though, right? Like we provide a great service. We grow these great fruit in that area, and we've got generational, both, the farmers and everybody that works there. And it's like, how do you keep this going?
Yeah. Well,
cause it's, it's great. It's a great lifestyle.
Retailers paying more would certainly help.
Well, at least keeping up with the cost of the goods going up.
If you're able to,
our input costs
get back what you're putting in.
Yeah.
I'm all depressed now.
Oh, it's not meant to depress you, right? I mean, it's just reality.
I don't want to lose the Leavenworth and Wenatchee Valley pears, but so many, like, I don't know what the percentage of total production there is, like small families, but I know it's way more than half.
Oh, it's all.
Everything is.
Yeah.
There's no large.
No.
Wow, that's so.
The Wenatchee Valley. There's no. I mean, there's some larger.
There's some bigger
families
guys, right? But
that are in there, but they're not. I wouldn't say like quote unquote corporate. Not like you have out in the basin.
Yeah, and I was gonna say you come down here, and a lot of it is, like, 1,000-acre orchards that are corporate owned.
There's not a lot of outside money in our valley.
Interesting. Huh.
Because
for now.
Well, I don't think there ever will be, because it's so, how do you, they can come into these other areas and they can buy 1,000 acres.
Yeah, so
you can't buy 1,000 acres there. You can buy 35 acres. You might be able to buy another 5 someplace else.
Yeah, but that's not going to cut it.
Yeah, it doesn't fit their business model.
Huh. Man. Okay, so what else? Any other struggles outside of labor and pests?
Well, pests and
labor, that keeps you up at night?
That keeps us going, yeah. We don't need any other struggles besides that.
You got any fun hobbies outside of growing?
Just the family. I mean, that's why you're there. Like I was saying earlier, that's the trade-off.
Yeah.
You deal with all these struggles and headaches and trying to rub 2 pennies together, because when you get home, in the summer it's hot, so you get out there, you're working, you're doing your thing. A lot of the things, you want to cut off before it's 90 degrees because it's hot. So, 1 o'clock or whatever, you're wrapping your 10-hour day up, and the kids are out in the pool. So you're hanging out, having a barbecue, and, enjoying life.
Yeah.
And so that's the trade-off.
It's pretty special.
Yeah. It is special. Like, there's, like I was saying, there's, 15 kids in the pool all having fun, splashing around. And yeah, how do you beat that?
So I mentioned that Ray, the president at Bluebird, had told me that you saved his water in his community. I got to hear that story.
well, Ray was off.
We took him on a customer trip, so he wasn't home.
Trying to build some relationships.
Yeah,
and sell
which
some
he
pears
was.
Yeah,
I will say our customers love Ray.
Yeah, everybody loves Ray.
We took him to a lot of dinners, and he was the main event. Man.
Yeah,
he can steal a room like no other.
Well, so it's Ray's block that he's tearing out some. Replanting some orchard, and so they were digging a pit to burn the trees that had been ripped out, and his son was on the excavator and accidentally caught the water line. And we live in these older areas, so this was a shared water system that affects not only his area but like the neighbors and
like the main line.
Yeah, and it's like somebody knows where that valve's at, but it's not like it's under a water district. It's just kind of a community water system. And, there's a handful of people that know where that valve's at. And I'm not one of them. I don't think his kid did know where the valve was at. And so anyways, he accidentally hooked it and broke the water line.
Oh, jeez.
And so, yeah.
You had to save the day.
Yeah, well, I just happened to be there, and I kind of caught wind that there was, problems with the water. So I was like, well, I got to go pick up my kid from school, and I'll pick up some tools, and I'll be right back. And
Yeah.
so I got back there, and we ended up putting it all back together and getting the water turned back on. So
Ray said his son had to call him and tell him what happened. I mean, I think every son has had to call their dad with that news, right? You just dread it.
Yeah.
You got to do it.
You got to do it.
That's funny.
You know, luckily, as a farmer, that's what you do, right? I mean, it's not the first time, obviously, that we hit a water line.
Yeah. It's funny.
Luckily, it wasn't a big one.
What apple varieties do you grow? You said they're kind of like not.
So the Galas, Goldens, some Honeycrisp.
Well, that's a good mix. I mean,
some Brayburns, I think. Some Johnny Golds.
Yeah, that's not a good mix.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think about?
That's not. Yeah. It's smaller.
All these new varieties that are coming in for the apple space, like Cosmic Crisp, Autumn Glory, a lot of others, Jazz Envy, stuff like that. The pear category is pretty flat, and it's been flat for a while. I know there's some people playing around with the idea of new pear varieties. Do you think that's an avenue that could potentially help drive consumption? Or
I thought you said you wanted to like bring the mood up.
So
do you think it's a benefit to having all, what is our 140 different varieties of commercially growing apples in the country?
Well, I think a lot of new varieties fail. The water's kind of muddy, right? Because there's so many, 140, right?
I don't know the number, but yeah, something like that.
It's something like
it's something
that.
close to that.
Well, Sam's Club, for example, carries 4.
Yeah. So what do you do with the other 136 of them?
Try and sell it to someone else. But everyone has said that pear consumption is flat, and so half of our day is spent trying to drive pear consumption, and we're just trying to think of how to do that.
So I think there is a really good answer to this, to be honest with you.
Okay.
So take it however you want. So I think that the pear industry, I think the pears are great.
Yeah, they are.
I think that, the pears I eat are wonderful. Whether it's an Anjo, a Bartlett, a Bosque, the Star Crimsons. The Star Crimson is my favorite pear.
Is it?
But I like eating it straight off the tree right at harvest. That's how I like it.
Interesting.
I don't want it to, like a Bartlett, you'd wait for it to turn yellow and it's soft and it's juicy and it's,
Oh, God, I love
they're
that.
good, right?
Yeah.
But the Star Crimson, I like it more like a crispy apple. It's just got a different flavor, and I just really like it that way. Not that I don't like any other apples or pears that way. But I think Bartletts are everybody likes a Bartlett for the most part. The issue you have with a Bartlett is keeping it looking good.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It goes quick.
And depending on where your flavor profile is, which whoever that consumer is, some people like them crunchier, some people like them softer. Like when they get soft, they're, the clock's ticking.
Yeah.
So that's its own problem. I don't think that we have a huge problem with the Bartletts because I think people enjoy eating those. I think the Star Crimsons, I think it's just getting them in front of the customer at different stages, because I like them crisper. That doesn't mean that the next person likes them crisper. And the thing with an Anjo is that it's hard to check the ripeness, right? Yeah. Like they don't like a Bartlett, is it green or yellow? When, you can tell. You can kind of tell. When it's this color, that's where my preference is. Whereas an Anjo, it doesn't change the color like that, and that's the majority of the pears that we have in our valley. And so in order to keep them fresher or firmer for longer, we were putting things on them in the warehouse, and we were trying to copy what was happening in the apple industry, and it wasn't working.
Right.
And so now, there's some people have been like, oh, that's the worst idea ever. We're never doing that again. Other people are like, well, maybe we were just overdoing it, and there's something else that we can do with it. And I think at this point where we've got these ripening rooms, and so we can kind of kick them into gear and ship them, that I think the pears that we're putting on the market now are more consistent and better. They're edible at the store. Right. And I've seen that since I've been in the industry, which has been, since 2016. In 2016, you get them at the store and, it's like, this thing's still hard.
Yeah.
And you try and ripen it up, which is a challenge for people.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to buy a pear and then ripen it yourself 3-5 days later. Like, where's that point? And then you forget about it and you come back, it's too far.
I think as it builds confidence for the consumer to know that when they're buying that pear, it's going to be ready. Maybe not that day, but tomorrow it would be ready.
I don't know. I've been buying them at the store and they're ready.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. I mean,
I always buy Bosk or Bartlett. So
yeah.
I don't mess with Andrews.
Yeah. No, wherever I go, like I said, I look at the fruit, and then if it's ours, I'll eat it.
Yeah.
I'll buy one and it's like, how's our product in the store, wherever it is.
Yeah.
And I feel like the quality and the taste is there at the store. More so than it was maybe 5 or 6 years ago.
Because of the ripening room.
Because of the ripening rooms, because of how we're storing them.
I think it will take time to build that confidence just because they haven't had that for so long. Yeah. And so, I mean, even me, like seeing an Angie, I'm like, oh, that won't be ready for 5 days. I'm not going to buy it.
Yeah.
But over time, I think it will help consumers be able to know that I can eat this pear right now.
Yeah. And I truly believe we're there. Like we're there where you can eat the pear now at the store.
Good.
Or you can, you can check the neck, right? And
check the neck.
And
check the neck. We actually before my time, right before I came on, they were experimenting with a PLU sticker that would change color as the Angie ripened. It would like read the ethylene or whatever that came off the pear.
Yeah.
And it would visually tell you like, okay, when it's this color, you can eat it.
Yeah.
I don't ever know what happened with that.
I don't know. I kind of I vaguely remember hearing something about that. I don't know anything about it.
I'll look into it.
Yeah.
I wonder if it was just not accurate.
It could be.
I don't know.
Yeah. But going back to that, I think it's just re-educating the public on, like people were turned off maybe back in 10 years ago when they'd pick one up and it was hard and, either we were having a hard time getting it ripe at home and, there's kind of, I guess I'll go to a Bartlett or I'll go to a Bosk because I'm,
I will say
something with it.
The demand for Bartletts at retail is insane.
Yeah.
That's crazy. We can't get enough Bartletts.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And I don't know if it's just because of the consumer preference or them being able to know that it's ready by the color of it, but it's just like we can't keep enough of them around. It's just the demand is crazy for them. They taste great too.
They're all of them taste great.
Yeah. I don't know anyone who doesn't like a perfectly ripe Bartlett.
Yeah.
So good.
I could say that no, I don't know anybody that doesn't like any of them perfectly ripe.
Yeah.
You get a perfectly ripe Bosk or Anjo or
I love Bosk.
Star Crimsons.
I really like pears. I will say I don't eat a ton of Anjus, but I love Asian pears. Oh, dude. Get me a good Asian pear.
Yeah.
Whew. Bartlett's obviously, Bosk are great. I do like Star Crimsons. I don't know about right off the tree. That's an acquired taste, dude.
That's my favorite one.
A rock.
But it's like an apple. It's not not necessarily like a rock.
True.
It's just crunchy.
True.
But it's got a flavor profile to it that I like.
Are there any like old vintage varieties that have like phased out?
Well, there's a lot of varieties of pears that aren't grown here in the United States that are in other areas of the world.
Like conference pears.
Yeah, and I don't.
They just haven't made this market yet.
Yeah.
Yet.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know if it's growing regions or what if there's any kind of issue bringing them into the country or yeah.
Cool. Well, that was good. Thank you for shedding some light on the struggles you're facing. I
don't want it to be like a doom and gloom thing, but
it's the reality. It's the reality that you're living in, and I hope your neighbors and yourself, continue to farm the land. We definitely need Wenatchee Valley pears for sure. Countries all over the world recognize the quality, I would say, and the Bluebird label is recognized everywhere as premium. Yeah. And so continuing to have that, I think, is really important. Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, there's a lot of headwinds, but yeah, we're up for the challenge. And that's farming. It's farming, yeah. Every farmer's got a challenge. Seems like we have a lot, though, compared to some other people. I wish we could subsidize tree fruits. Gosh, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. That's another topic. Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you for coming on. I hope you go to the slopes tomorrow. Oh, definitely. I think I might sneak away in the afternoon. Yeah. Try and get some runs. Yeah, I'm actually. We're having like a mini guys reunion. So. Nice. You got your powder skis? Yeah, I do. Nice. So you ski a lot? No, I don't ski a lot. I ski sometimes. Nice. That's better than none times. It was
I never really skied a ton ever. And then, skied when I was young and then started snowboarding. And then I got the kids and it was like, well, I gotta go. You can't really train a kid how to ski on a snowboard. So I got some new skis. And,
so the kids all ski too?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. So
nice. That's good.
I mean, we do live in Leavenworth, so.
Yeah, you kind of have to.
Yeah.
Stevens Pass.
What
do you think about that whole
Mission Ridge,
not
Ski Hill?
Not necessarily tree fruit related, but what do you think about the Stevens Pass acquisition? Have you seen any impacts in the area, like Leavenworth, with that?
I don't necessarily. I mean, it's possible. There's so many people that I don't know if it's attributed to anything to do with the ski resort or not.
Yeah.
I do know that I know there's a lot of people in our area that go to Stevens. There's employees that live in Leavenworth that, run Stevens Pass.
Yeah.
But we also have Mission Ridge right close, and there's a lot less people there.
Mission Ridge, I learned, is expanding soon.
Yeah, that's great.
Do you know which way they're expanding? Is it towards Ellensburg?
I don't know for sure.
God, dude, it would be so sweet if we could get to Mission Ridge from Ellensburg.
That would
be the Yakima people. Oh, man.
You might be onto something there. I don't know their plan at all.
That would be sweet.
I know they got good snow up there though.
Yeah, they do.
And the lines are not what they are. They resorts.
Mission Ridge just acquired a small resort in Montana too, by Flathead Lake.
Okay.
A really small resort, so they're growing too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a big skier, so it fascinates me. I was just curious, a local to Stevens, if you had noticed any change. A lot of dollars went into Stevens Pass.
There's a lot of people that they have season passes there. We have a program through the school. The kids can get season passes to go to Stevens if they meet their reading requirements. And
oh, really?
Yeah,
nice.
So there's a lot of people that's
cool
in our area that go to Stevens. And
and
then we have Ski Hill right in town.
That's right.
And so if you, I think it's third grade, you get done with school, they'll bus you up there.
That's so cool. I rode mountain bikes up there. There's a trail called Rosie Boa, and you go up the rope tow or whatever it is now. That's where you ride up and then you take the ridge back down. It was so fun. I remember being like, this is a tiny ski hill, but I bet if I was elementary school or high school, I'd be up there every day, man.
Oh, they got the little carpet now. So my 5-year-old goes up the carpet and,
that's perfect.
Yeah. Huh. The kids go up the rope tow and you're up there for an hour or 2 or 4.
That's all you need. Yeah, I mean, when they're young like
now
that.
They got the tubing up there. Yeah, no, it's great for our, it's great for the community.
Right.
Yeah. Kids get
cool.
to learn
I wish we
ski
had that in town here.
Yeah.
We have to go to White Pass, which is 45 minutes.
Yeah.
All right, sir. Well, thank you for coming in.
Yeah.
Appreciate hearing your perspective on it. And I'm glad you're on the Bluebird board and involved in helping continue the success that they've had. So
yeah.
Thank you.
110 years?
100. Yeah. 100. This was 110 years this year. That's crazy.
So it's a lot of pressure now to keep that going, right?
Yeah. How do you know how many original families are still?
I don't
I know there's a handful.
Yeah.
For sure. It's fascinating, but
I do know that we've not been any other warehouse in our 4 generations.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So they're doing a good job then.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's a good team for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming in.
Yeah. Thank you,
Hope
guys.
you have a fun ski day tomorrow with the
to.
boys.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll see you up there.
Hopefully. Come on up.
All right, Brock.
Perfect.
Hour?
Yeah.
Okay.